Porcupine Productions presents A Tale of Theory, Thongs, and the woman who weaponized her postgraduate degree against common sense. Join us, dear listeners, as we step into a temple of learning where logic goes to die and jargon reigns supreme. Prepare yourselves for the Docent. Will you emerge enlightened, or merely wondering why the menstrual cycle is now a public transit map? Stay tuned for the Docent.
Tonight's broadcast of The Docent is brought to you by poststructural panty liners. Feeling a little discursively unstable? Leaking from your semiotic aperture? That it's time to deconstruct your discomfort with poststructural panty liners. Formulated with 17 layers of epistemic absorption and a core of intersectional integrity, poststructural panty liners adapt to your lived narrative, whether you identify as she, they, or temporally unmoored. No leaks, no labels, no linear thinking, just radical containment. Poststructural panty liners, because even your vulva deserves a theory. Now, back to the Docent.
Welcome everyone. Please gather around. I am called Persephone Mews, and my pronouns are she and her. Currently, I am finishing up my doctoral work at Cambridge, and I will be your docent today, your virtual gynecologist, if you will, for your tour today of the Vagina Museum. Or, as we might provocatively reframe it, the site of contested ontologies and intertextual embodiment. Now, while many of you may assume, quite hegemonically I might add, that vaginas are the exclusive domain of cisgendered women, we reject such essentialist limitations. Indeed, in our bathroom corridor, you'll find a men's room, which is of course problematic, and an everyone else room, which is still under critical review. Before we proceed, I must ask that you check your assumptions at the door, along with any essentialist baggage, patriarchal preconceptions, or heteronormative snacks or beverages you may have brought with you. That's my humorous way of saying no food or drink allowed. The vagina, contrary to outdated biological dogma, is not merely an anatomical feature. It is, in the words of Judith Butler, peace be upon her, a discursive receptacle of socio-linguistic becoming.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Which part?
That last bit. The discourse something or other.
Oh yes, you mean discursive receptacle of socio-linguistic becoming?
Yes, that bit. What exactly does that mean?
Well, far be it from me to pass the great Judith Butler, but if I were to attempt to simplify it, I suppose I'd say that the vagina is not a thing per se, but rather a discursive aperture through which the semiotic indeterminacy of gendered subjectivity is both interpolated and deferred. It's less a body part and more a liminal threshold, a porous ontological vector in the ongoing palimpsest of identitarian becoming.
So it's a vagina?
It is also that, yes. Now, as we move toward the first exhibit, titled From Yonic Symbolism to Period Pride, Decolonizing the Sanitary Narrative, I invite you to consider how capitalism and colonialism have historically conspired to shame the menstrual body, even as they commodified its labour and hygiene. Please take a moment to gaze upon this suspended mobile, made entirely from reclaimed tampons and a single unwashed pair of Margaret Thatcher's Spanx, representing both oppression and resistance.
Dear, may I ask, what does this have to do with vaginas?
What doesn't it have to do with vaginas? You see, the object called vagina, and I emphasise called, is merely the site where meaning, language, power and cotton blend undergarments intersect.
Right. Well, I was in the WRAF in 1973. We didn't talk like this. We just had them.
How quaint.
You were in the WRAF? How fascinating.
Yes, but that was ages ago, dear. I was a part of the first class of women allowed to train with male pilots at the RAF College.
That's amazing.
Oh, no.
Yes, well, it's just a shame that to prove your equality with men, you felt you had to contribute to the colonial war machine, propping up a corrupt male-dominated empire. But good on you, I suppose. Again, let's get back to our exhibit.
Sorry, I know this is a bit off topic, but...
No, please feel free to ask anything of me. I want this to be a space where no topics are off limits. A sanctified zone of epistemic vulnerability and radical ontological inquiry, where even the most liminal questions may flower into subversive truth.
Actually, I meant for her. I wanted to ask the WRAF lady what it was like training with the men at RAF College.
Oh, well, different world back then. We didn't even have proper kit. I remember stitching darts into a flight suit 3 sizes too big. But the flying, that was the same sky for everyone.
That's incredible. You must have seen some real history.
Yes, very inspiring, I'm sure. However, let's not derail the discourse. We are currently examining menstrual epistemologies through the lens of post-capitalist embodiment.
Wait, what does that mean?
Well, to simplify, if I must, it's the way late-stage consumerism constructs the menstruating body as both taboo and transactional. Or, if you prefer, it's the commodification of the biosemiotic leak.
That didn't help.
My generation would have just called that buying pads.
Yes, well, such reductionism is endemic of a time when women were complicit in their own symbolic erasure.
We were also busy getting bank accounts without our husbands. But sure, dear.
Moving along. Our next installation is entitled The Vulvic Cartographies of Resistance. You'll notice it's composed entirely of menstrual cups suspended on fishing wire in the shape of the Greater London rail system.
Why is that?
Because the patriarchy never stops, not even for delays on the Jubilee line.
Sorry, I'm still just so curious. Did you ever face hostility from the male cadets?
Oh, sure. One lad said I'd crash because I was too hormonal. I showed him, though. I beat his flight scores and told him to fetch me a cuppa.
Charming. But let's not get nostalgic for gendered microaggressions. Let's recenter the discussion on vulvosemiotic praxis.
Oh no.
That's the exploration of how meaning is inscribed on and through the vulva as a cultural text. It's quite clear.
Is it, though?
Crystal. Now, adjacent to this installation, you'll find our sensory alcove, entitled The Labial Dialectics of Shame, a Felt Experience. Please do not touch the felt vulvas, unless, of course, you do so through the lens of critical consent.
And that means what exactly?
It's a metaphorical invitation to reimagine agency in the context of performative textile engagement.
So it's a curtain.
It's an interruption.
Speaking of interruptions, I hope you don't mind.
Of course, as I said, I'm here to enlighten.
No, I wanted to know, what kind of flying did you do for the RAF?
Oh, mostly supply runs and getting wounded armed services personnel to hospitals and such. Only one time during the Cold War, when flying over Scotland, there was an errant Soviet plane. That was quite exciting and not a little bit scary, I don't mind telling you. Turns out the pilot was just way off course from a training mission. So much confusion and hullabaloo, though.
That's a cute little story, but we'd be remiss if we didn't take the opportunity to visit our interactive tribute to Judith Butler's groundbreaking book, Gender Trouble.
Miss Mews, where are the actual, historical exhibits?
History is a colonial construct. This museum curates experiences, not artefacts.
Funny. When I was a girl, experience wasn't something you curated. It was something you survived.
Okay, that is quite enough lived experience for one tour. If I wanted to be interrupted by anecdotes, I'd go to brunch with my mother.
So, the museum isn't really about vaginas.
It is about the idea of vaginas.
And are you the only one allowed to have ideas about them, dear?
This concludes our tour. Exit through the gift shop, or don't. Meaning is, of course, unstable.
Did you have women like her back then?
Oh, yes, dear. We called them right cunts.
That was The Docent, written and produced by Corey Schweitzer, featuring the voices of Marta Carlson, Rachel Wills, Ingrid Berchtold, and Corey Schweitzer. Additional voices by 11 Labs. Tune in and subscribe to hear more Porcupine productions of both original and archival vintage radio programs. Thank you and good night.